All right, let me ask you something. What if your student was your grandmother? And what if she was 62 years old and decided, you know what, I'm going to learn to read for the very first time? It sounds incredible, right? Well, today we're diving into that exact story. It's a true story from Sudha Murthy, and it's all about learning, love, and a promise that, well, it changed everything.
So let's set the scene. We're in a small village in North Karnataka, India, and this is where we meet our two main characters. First, there's this bright 12-year-old girl, and then there's her 62-year-old grandmother, Krishtakka. The granddaughter calls her Ava, which is just a term of endearment. Now, these two, they have this amazing bond, and it's all built around stories. But there's a secret that's about to test that bond and honestly change both of their lives forever. Okay, so in their house, Wednesday was a big deal. It was like a special ritual. You know how the morning paper was always a day late? Well, not this one magazine, the weekly magazine Karmavira. It showed up every Wednesday right on time, like clockwork. And for the grandmother, man, this was the highlight of her entire week. And you want to know why? Because inside was the next part of a story she was completely hooked on. This novel she loved so much was called Kashi Yatre. It was written by a really popular author at the time, Triveni. And the plot? It's about this elderly woman who has one big dream, to make a pilgrimage to the holy city of Kashi. She spends her whole life saving up for this one trip, but, and here's the twist, on her way, she meets a young orphan girl who's desperate for money to get married. And in this incredibly selfless moment, the old woman gives all her life savings to the girl. Her whole belief was that helping someone, making them happy, that's more important than anything, even worshiping God. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Krishtakka, the grandmother, she couldn't read, not a single word. So every single Wednesday, her 12-year-old granddaughter basically became her eyes. She'd read the new chapter out loud, and Krishtakka would just hang on every word, totally captivated. She'd felt so connected to the main character, she'd even go down to the temple courtyard later and tell the whole story to her friends. But think about it. To get into this world that she loved so much, she was 100% dependent on her granddaughter. And then the routine breaks. The granddaughter has to go away for a week to a wedding in a village nearby. And you know how it is. She gets caught up in all the food and the fun, and she totally forgets about the weekly story. Just slips her mind. But back home, Ava is waiting. So when she finally gets back home, she sees something she has literally never seen before in her life. Her grandmother is in tears. And you have to understand, this was a woman who'd been through some incredibly tough times and had never, ever cried. So seeing her like this, it's a total shock. The girl just runs to her side asking, "What's wrong? What happened?" Later that night, the grandmother sits her down and just tells her the story of her life. She explains that she got married when she was just a little girl, way before anyone thought it was important for girls to go to school, so she never had the chance. She spent her whole life raising kids and then grandkids, but always, always in the back of her mind was this regret that she couldn't read. And the narrator, the granddaughter, is just sitting there completely confused, wondering, why is she telling me all of this now in the middle of the night?
And then it all comes out. While the granddaughter was gone, the magazine came, and the grandmother was so desperate to know what happened in her story that she opened it up. She tried, She ran her hand over the pictures, trying to figure out the story from the images alone, but it was useless, and she just felt completely helpless. In that one moment, a whole lifetime of regret just hit her like a ton of bricks. This sharp, painful feeling of being dependent, of being left behind.
So she wipes away her tears, and she makes this declaration that is going to change everything. She looks right at her 12-year-old granddaughter and says, "I want to learn the Kannada alphabet." She's just done. Done with feeling helpless. She wants to read a novel, all by herself. And I want you to just pause and think about how huge this decision is. She wasn't a kid. Krishtakka was 62 years old. I mean, at an age when most people are kind of settling down, she decided she was going to become a student for the very first time in her life. That's incredible. And listen, this wasn't just some vague wish like, oh, maybe I'll learn someday. No, she set a hard deadline, a really firm, unshakable one. The Saraswati Puja festival was on the calendar. It's a day that's all about the goddess of learning, and she made a vow. By that day, she would be able to read a novel on her own. This was not a hobby, this was a mission. Now, you can probably guess what happened next. The granddaughter kind of laughed at first. I mean, the idea of her 62-year-old grandma learning the ABCs, it seemed a little funny. But Ava, she was dead serious. She just looked her granddaughter right in the eye, and you could see her resolve. She said, "For a good cause, if you're determined, you can overcome any obstacle. I will work harder than anybody, but I will do it. And just like that, a pretty amazing classroom was set up, right there in their own home. And the roles? Totally flipped. The 12-year-old girl was now the teacher, and her 62-year-old grandmother was her student. And, as a student, the grandmother made sure to show her new teacher the absolute highest respect.
So the very next day, lessons began. And let me tell you, Krishtakka was an incredible student, just phenomenal. She was so diligent, so hardworking, and just filled with this fire to learn. She would read things out loud, repeat them, write them down, recite them back. I mean, the amount of homework she did was, as her young teacher put it, amazing. Time flies, and the deadline, the day of the Saraswati Puja festival, it finally arrives. The grandmother, true to her word, brings her teacher a little gift, some material for a dress. And then the granddaughter gives her a gift back. It's a copy of the novel Kashi Yatre. Yep, the final exam was about to start.
So with her granddaughter watching her every move, Krishtakka opens the book. And then, completely on her own, without any help, she reads the title out loud, Kashi Yatre by Triveni. And the publisher's name too. She just did it, flawlessly. And her teacher knew, right then and there, that her student had passed with flying colors. Okay, now to really get the power of what happens next, you need to understand a really important Indian tradition. It's a sign of deep, deep respect for a younger person to bend down and touch the feet of an elder, like a parent or a grandparent or a teacher. It's this profound gesture of reverence.
But then, the grandmother does something completely unheard of. She, the 62-year-old elder in the room, bends down and touches the feet of her 12-year-old granddaughter. The girl is just stunned. I mean, this is a total reversal of tradition. It goes against everything she's ever known or been taught. And this is the beautiful, powerful climax of the whole story. The grandmother explains why she did it. She says, "I'm not touching the feet of my granddaughter. I'm touching the feet of my teacher, the person who taught her with so much care and skill that she could finally read." And she says that it's her duty to respect a teacher, and it doesn't matter what their age is or what their gender is. A teacher is a teacher. And in that one single gesture, you see the real victory, don't you? By touching her teacher's feet, Krishtakka wasn't just showing respect, she was declaring her own independence. She could finally dive into that world of stories all by herself. She had given herself the gift of a completely new life. What a beautiful story, right? It's just this perfect reminder that a real teacher can show up in any form at any age, and that it's never too late to learn. Determination has no deadline. So it kind of leaves us with a big question to think about. Who has been the most unexpected teacher in your life? You know, the one who completely changed your world when you weren't even looking?